Welcome to another episode here at the Masculine Health Solutions podcast. I just want to touch on some things before I jump on to talk about the interview that I had with Dave Gold. But first and foremost, been working on some things on the website. I know that the articles haven't been coming out as smoothly or as often as I would have liked. You know, a lot of guys want me to aim more for the PE podcast as well. So I do have some things coming up in regards to that. And I'm very excited for a couple interviews that, I'm working on right now. So stay tuned for more goodness. Also, more stuff coming down the pipe as well in regards to sexual performance, lasting longer, like a lot of guys have alluded to as well. And big shout out to all the guys reaching out to me via IG more than anything, and looking to learn a lot, trade ideas, and just give you some feedback as to whether, you guys want to set up a forum or maybe a WhatsApp group or something just in regards to PE. Because it seems like, it's something that's still relevant and relative to, obviously, this channel as far as Masculine Health Solutions podcast goes. Obviously, I want to do more things on mindset, sexual performance, physical development, all that stuff. I want to make sure that we tie in the whole gamut, I guess, in regards to, Masculine Health Solutions, which is why I named it that, right? But I do know that a lot of guys reach out to me, talk more about PE, want to talk more about pumping and all that kind of stuff, right? Just a heads up to Daniel from Jellic to Gain. He also has a WhatsApp group, and if anybody's interested in that or wants to join in, hey, be sure to hit me up, DM me, and we'll make it happen, man. So enough of that. Now, in regards to today's episode, I had the utmost pleasure to interview Dave Gold. And Dave Gold basically broke down his life story about how, he basically had been studying spirituality and all these different things in regards to, making himself better as a man. Unfortunately, though, it's almost as though he could never attain that perfection that he was looking for. And he actually lost $1 million investing into a company that just went kaput, man, did not work. And in doing so, he also lost his marriage, man, and he suffered a lot. But he discovered that, I don't necessarily got to be perfect. And it helped him to transform his life for the better. And now he helps people in their transformations. So he went from being a lawyer to now being more of an entrepreneur, but more than anything, just helping people. And I was very, very happy to have the conversation that I did with him. And, we basically got down to, I guess, the philosophical approach to life that a man, in his position can pretty much only gain from, experiencing the worst of life at times to really get to the best. And it was a very eye-opening podcast, and I had a great time, guys. So I hope you guys can take a lot of good wisdom out of this interview. And again, hit me up for any other inquiries, anything else you guys want to learn more about, hear about, or subject matter that you guys are interested in. I'll see if I can find people to shed some light on the subject. But without any further ado, let's talk to Dave Gold and learn a little bit more about some very life-changing wisdom. All right, that being said, let's jump right in. Welcome to another episode here at the Masculine Health Solutions podcast. Today I got Dave, who's going to drop a whole lot of gold on us, give us some wisdom, give us the lowdown on basically how to get our lives to move forward and get rid of some of the doubts we may have. But first, Dave, let's give us a quick background into your story, your career, and what made you really go down this path.
Well, that's great. Well, first, I just want to tell you, CJ, I just think your listeners are so lucky to have you. I got to tell you, folks, I've met this guy. I thought, this guy's the real. And that sounds like a throwaway line, like I'm blowing smoke up your ass, but I'm not. He's just what you hear is what you get. So I feel immediately comfortable with you. And I know that anyway, I just want to acknowledge that for the people that don't get a chance to connect with you in the way that we just did. All right, enough of that. Enough about you. Let's It's the old joke, says enough about you. Let's talk about what you think about me, you know? So, um, okay. So I always try to answer this question like I never heard it before. And
Yeah.
that's what authenticity is, when you're just responding rather than just kind of reacting with old stuff you have. And is the best that I can feel right now is that, okay, let's actually do it. Because I was going to tell you something I said before, but then I thought that wouldn't be real. Okay. So if I can give you, the background is that I always knew there was something big that I was meant to do. I just knew that. And it's interesting because I actually had a bunch of pretty serious health problems. I was actually losing my vision, and I was going blind, and I had been to the Mayo Clinic and, witch doctors, I just had the kind of my network of stuff. Do I need a shaman? I'll find a shaman. Do I need an eye specialist? I'll find an eye specialist, because I've been in spirituality and business and so on. And I ended up, after, you know, knocking down every door, talking to an intuitive, and he said, Dave, you're meant to do something really big. And I thought, yeah. And he said, no, it's really big. And I could feel there was a sobriety to that. And rather than feeding my ego, it scared the hell, it scares us. And I think that's what all of us have. We have this dual thing where, well, yeah, I want to be big. But when it comes to actually being seen, when it comes to actually putting ourselves out there, when it comes to discovering how big we can, be, and I assume I can use any words I want. I mean, you shit your pants, for lack of
Yeah.
a word. So anyway, and then the other thing that's interesting, and I will throw that out because I just mentioned this to somebody this morning. A very good one of my business partners. In fact, his husband's having triple bypass surgery, and but the body has a funny way of talking. And this will be cool for you as what you do, and because the body's kind of, that's your playground. You're like a mad scientist in the body. It's your laboratory. But it's interesting. In the case of the intuitive, he said, you're losing your vision because you lost your vision.
Huh.
So I lost my vision for life, and so my body was losing my vision. And so and it's interesting when I got, and as you can see, I don't have a seeing eye dog, or I got my vision back. And just to play off that, and of course we can get to my background, but I think this might be a good place for us to connect, is this beautiful human being that I was talking to today. And it's a black entrepreneurship program that I started as part of and then I spun it off as a nonprofit with her. She runs that. We've helped a ton of Black entrepreneurs. But anyway, enough self-congratulatory patting myself after the story. But she's mentioned that her husband's having the surgery, and it's a pretty big deal. He's got 5 bypasses and blah, blah, blah. And she said that they tested his heart, and they found out that he actually pumps out perfectly, but he doesn't pump it. He doesn't have the inflow.
Jeez.
Husband, God bless him, said, that's my life. I know how to go out, but I don't know how to receive.
Jeez.
And we wanted it's truth, but two, that he had the that he just had the insight to say that. So it's just interesting. We can talk more about this. It's just how it's just an interesting place. I had a client was on the phone with me, and he had some. He said, "Oh, I didn't know if I was going to do it. I've got my stomach hurts. I got this blockage." So I Googled really fast spiritual significance of wherever it was, and it says, "You've got an emotional blockage." And I said, "You got an emotional blockage?" And he said, "Yeah, there's something I need to tell an old girlfriend that I have had. His ex-wife that I neglected to do." So anyway,
Yeah.
I'm off. Okay, so anyway, back to something big to do, and you do as well, CJ, for what it's worth. I can feel that there's something big, and yeah, we can talk more about that later. I'm sorry, I get these intuitions, and then I get lost out in the stratosphere. But back to the practical part, something big. First, I thought like most testosterone laden, adult teenagers. I would just make I would just make a ton of money, and be really famous, and have the most beautiful, have the trophy wife, and then that would be it, and then whatever, that would be enough. And then life just kicked my ass when I was 19. My father died when I was very young, and 19, pretty young, and a bunch of other stuff. And I could feel, I went into a deep depression, really, really deep depression. And then I really didn't like myself. I didn't like who I was. And without getting too much into poor me, because my life's been such a blessing, every piece of it. But my father died before I had a chance to prove to, I was a mess when he died. I was a bigger mess afterwards.
Yeah.
So I was just hated myself so much for being who I was. And then for never having a chance, never feeling I never have a chance to prove myself to him
Yeah.
that I wanted to do. And I'm sure, you know, again, this isn't like, oh, poor Dave. This is all of us have something like this we're doing. But anyway, so I ended up meeting a man in my first year of law school who became my spiritual teacher. He was this, I don't know, you know, he's really like a hillbilly. He was from West Virginia. He was plain spoken, plain dressed, but the son of a bitch was enlightened. He had
Yeah.
a powerful spiritual experience. And so without, and you know, I just bought, I was a fanatic, and I ended up moving in with him, living in his house, and he was ruthless, merciless. And well, I started my practice, and I was balls to the wall, but no, I was celibate. I guess I don't know if that's ball, where the balls fit in that. I was celibate. I'd spend 30 days a year. I'd go out to my cabin for 30 days, and I wouldn't see another soul. No electricity, no running water, just meditate. And what and it fits into my narrative is that I wanted to transcend my humanity. I wanted to spiritually bypass. I thought I'll
Yeah.
always be neurotic, always be high strung, always be oversexed, I'll always be manipulative, always be distracted. But maybe I could just find, and you have enough taste of these kind of states as well. But interestingly enough, at the same time, I was practicing law. You know, I was a businessman. I was a successful lawyer, successful practitioner. And when I sold that, I sold that to write a book, and then became an entrepreneur, and you know, had good success with that as well as you know, the failures that come with it as well. But so I had this kind of dual track of wanting to transcend my humanity. That was my way of getting around my faults and my. And I, by the way, just from kind of your paradigm, I was at war with my body the whole time.
Yeah.
I was at war. I just said, okay, I'm going to beat, you know, I just wanted to be tough and strong. And I as a celibate, you know, you're fighting your body all the time, because that's not, I'm a horny Jewish guy. I didn't have the monk mentality, but I was always at war with my body and at war with myself. I really thought I was. And I think this plays in nicely, but I was just at war with who I was. And I wanted to be the perfected version of myself. And at the same time, while I'm playing the spiritual card, I'm also playing the business card. Well, I still don't mind making a lot of money and being successful and being renowned, and you know,
Yeah.
maybe some beautiful woman will see me on television and talking out of my celibacy or whatever it might be. So, and thanks for your patience. I'll get to the punchline here in a minute. But then everything as often happens in the spiritual literature or even the life literature, my life just fell apart in 2013. I was, you know, I'm showing my age, 61 years old. And my marriage fell apart. I'd gotten married and late in life after I gave up the celibate experiment. And I had a business that I had put over $1 million of my own money in that fell apart. It's the first real failure that I'd had.
Jeez.
And then also I was involved with a second spiritual group that I was deeply invested in. And that turned out the guru, you know, had feet of clay. So I just had a real like, wow, you know, I just was brought to my knees by life. And curiously enough, I was on retreat in Tuscany, outside of Florence, and a meditation retreat. And I had I first I wouldn't talk about this because I didn't want people to think that I was claiming to be, you know, some great spiritual whatever, which I don't. I'm a good man and a smart man, a wise man, a caring man. But that's plenty for me. I don't need to have any spiritual things tied to it. But I did have a dunk into consciousness. And one of the things that came out, and it ties into the narrative that's just speed wrapping here, is one of them, I knew that nothing that I had done in my life, none of the spiritual efforts over the 40 years or so, had brought me 1 inch closer to what had happened. It was a grace. It was an accident. And that was kind of interesting. And the second one was that I was still grateful for that because I realized I was a really good guy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, oh, it was like when you just see everything as it is. In this case, it was kind of a transcendent, and I just saw myself as I was, and I thought, yeah, I can make the, you know, I can drop the indictment against myself as if I was but I care. I care about do the right thing. I wanted to do, and that kind of laid the groundwork, because then I wasn't a seeker anymore. So, you know, it's like you know, it's, I don't know, people see The Princess Bride, but it's like when the Spaniard finally kills the six-fingered guy, like, what are you gonna do now? I've been in the revenge business so long, you know.
Yeah.
I had been in the spiritual seeking business. What the hell do I do now? And then fortunately, blessedly, Julie, my wife and my my best friend and the woman, you know, descended into my life totally unexpectedly. It's another story. Whatever you want to talk, because it's interesting, you know, the testosterone laden men that we are, and that I am less so because I've worn it out over that there's still that, to have the heart that that woman opened up in me, and that this beautiful, spiritual, sensitive, integrity, woman of integrity, very, very psychic to the point of like, you know, oracle, medium kind of, and 15 years younger than me, could love this schmuck that I was, that I thought I was. And I realized I couldn't be that schmuck.
Yeah.
There's no way. And that, you know, so one, it just challenged my ideas of myself. It challenged my ideas about love. And then I realized that my life has really been a love story. And no
Yeah.
matter what it is we're doing, I don't care, you know, if whether it was the spiritual work or the business work or, you know, just trying to become the best physical specimen we can, it's still all a love story. And so it brings me to the moment, which is that what I have discovered, and through a lot of good luck, good fortune, is that the most important thing, that what stands in the way of everything that we want, is that we just don't want to be ourselves. We're afraid to be, we want to become someone different or perfected version of ourselves. We disqualify ourselves, we sabotage ourselves. And there's no, it does us no good. It
Yeah.
serves nothing. And so that is kind of my, I don't know what it is, you know, that's kind of my spark, what sets me afire. What I do, it takes different, you know, it takes different forms. And but part of it is just like this. I show up with you, and to me, you're my best, you know, you're my best
Yeah.
friend. I don't care, you know, if there's a million people listening or nobody listening, doesn't matter. There's a moment here. And
Yeah.
also how I work professionally with, you know, individuals and groups and businesses to because I'm also a very practical guy. You know,
Yeah.
I'm a smart Jewish businessman as well as being a deep thinker. And so being able to just practically take what people's passions are, kind of helping them understand their life story, their hero's journey that is their life, listen with them to what might be calling to them from another dimension, or what, you know, whatever you want to call it, what just something higher inside or outside themselves, and then being able to fashion or accentuate or accelerate a, a business or some type of calling that is in line with who they are.
Yeah. See that. Well, it's kind of
That
the
was
one thing.
a, that was a, thanks for listening, man.
Hey, but you know what? I prefer that, right? It's extensive, but it goes into like the root cause. And that's the one thing I saw on your website too, where it's just like everybody that's talked to you has said the same thing. He's like, this guy just, man, he's blunt force trauma. He just goes right to the root. But I kind of feel like that's what's missing nowadays, because everybody's just kind of like, everybody's on the surface level, and your approach is just like, all right, cool. Let's dig down deep into what's wrong with you.
But
Right.
it's but that's a great example of just authenticity. It's everybody's, your greatest goddamn differentiator. Your secret sauce is your authenticity. It's what we hide the most. Because,
Yeah.
oh no, I got this weird quirk. No, like me, I just, well, one, I'm just too old to lie anymore, and two, well, I can still lie and pitch, trust me. Yeah. But I mean, anyway, what you say is true. I have no patience for bullshit. I can still talk the weather if anybody wants to talk the weather.
Yeah.
It's so satisfying. I mean, that's what you feel like when you're met. Because when you're
Exactly.
you like, you know what you feel with me, like I see you, right? You feel,
Yeah. Yeah.
and how beautiful is it to be seen and then to be acknowledged? And that only comes through authenticity. And we spend our whole lives putting up a facade that we think people will love. And then we wonder why that's not satisfying, because they don't love us.
No, yeah, it's just a charade that you go around, you talk about small talk. And I was just telling my wife the same thing. I'm like, man, it's like some people I talk to, and it's just like, hey, how's it going? Sports. Oh, yeah. It's like, dude, I don't give a shit. You know, at the end of the day, it's like, I really don't care. But it's kind of, meaningless relationships that we just kind of, I don't know. I mean, we got to be professional and stuff. But at the same time, I think at the end of the day, it just kind of leaves everybody empty. So
Mhm.
what made you like say, hey, you know what, I gotta help these people out? And what made you develop the approach that you have? Because
Mm.
obviously it's working.
How it works. Well, okay, these will be data points. They won't add up to anything. I found that data points a lot better than, after making a case as a lawyer, for years, I like to not have to make a case. All right. One is, I care. I just actually care. And like you're an empath. We feel deeply. And when you feel deeply, not only do you feel deeply, you can't differentiate between you and other people. You feel them so much, right?
Yeah.
It gets really confusing. And that's one reason we develop all of this crap and we stay superficial, because it's too much.
Yeah.
My first teacher said my nerve endings were very close to the surface. So we got shock absorbers between us, and that's the ego and that's the personality. So part of my methodology is I care, and partly through the heart opening with Julie, but my whole life I knew that I couldn't take my armor and my untruths and my fears with me. Well, that's a bad way to say it, because I don't have to lose. I just knew I needed to be as authentic as possible. So
Yeah.
one, I care. Two, I'm authentic. And then I have found that, like you're good with people.
Yeah.
If I had a sales company, I'd hire you. But at the same time, so I know how to move people's minds. I know how to get them to closure. I know how to get a jury to say, yes, I'll give you money, or no, that guy won't go to jail, or whatever. But I don't want anything that's not mine.
Gotcha.
It's an interesting way to live. I don't want
Yeah.
anything that's not mine. So then you approach people. So that's one thing, I think, is just going to people and not wanting any. What does it mean to not want anything of them? And I'm running this really crazy experiment, I see, Jay, and us being together as part of it is, how do I continue to craft and grow and accelerate a business without asking anybody for anything? I mean, I'm telling you, it's just a crazy ass. That's one of the reasons I'm doing these podcasts. Like, who's going to talk to people?
Yeah.
I know how to craft a marketing campaign. I know how to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So one is caring deeply, and as a part of that, not wanting anything. And the third thing is something my wife Julie has really been helpful, and that's not to trespass.
Yeah. Oh, I see that.
So how do you get in there? I'll tell you a really interesting story. Such a situation that brought it, and I still don't know how to resolve it. Is that I have one of my clients, very successful business owner, and I have two of my clients started this. I won't get into it, but they have a process that really kind of blows your mind. And my friend came with his wife and two daughters, and one of the daughters has a lot of it's very has a lot of issues. And I have a daughter who's been quite a challenge, a loving challenge, but quite a challenge, and I relate to it. But anyway, what happened was I found myself alone with this daughter who was in trouble. Well, they were all, but the other three were in with my partner and this business guy. So she's cranky, and she's getting her phone. Just had that nasty 16-year-old, the nasty year-old
Yeah.
attitude, and and at first I'm repulsed. I thought I can't even stay in a room with her. I thought I got to get out of the house. I thought, no, I'm going to try something different. I started talking to her, and I asked her some question, and she responded like, and then I sat down next to her, and I looked into that young lady's soul, and I said, I know what it's like to feel how you feel. I have a daughter that way. I'm like you. I'm like you as well. I care deeply. I feel deeply. I don't know how to handle it. Sometimes I make stupid choices, and tears are coming down her eyes, and I'm just opening up. Is this appropriate? And like her dad came out and saw this and didn't know what the hell was going on. And I thought, did I trespass? In a way, maybe I trespassed as it relates to him, because that's not what he brought his kids for.
Yeah.
My contact was soul to soul with her. So this idea of what it means not to trespass is very, very tricky. How you love the world without trying to change it. How you feel what's best for people without taking them off whatever their particular journey is. And this is the point. So I'm glad I'm as old as I am, because I got some experience. I have a library of experience in terms of what that might look like.
I could imagine, because it's interesting you say that too, because was it Jordan Peterson's book where he talks about 12 rules for life, where he's like, hey, how are you going to change the world if you haven't cleaned up your room, right? And it's almost like it all starts from within, and after you're done that, then sure, you can go and project good things into the world, but you got to get past, well, not get past yourself, but work on yourself, and then kind of just learn to not go and violate everybody else's, like, hey, this is my space, what are you telling me what to do? you're a mess. You see that all the time.
Yeah, and absolutely. Well, there's a lot of wisdom in what you said, and I used to say, and I have a member an entrepreneurial membership group, and in it I just say whatever shows up in your business is showing up in your life. Whatever shows up in your life, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's all the same. So, and I used to say, let me just look at your desk. If I see your desk, I see the inside of your mind.
Yeah.
It's all going to show up, and it's interesting because you can work both ways. It's not enough to just 30 days in the cabin was great, but then I needed to come out and see what I learned and then have that reflect back. So one thing that I found doesn't work as well as others is trying to wait till we're a perfected version of ourselves before we go out.
Yeah.
We are the perfected version of who we are in this moment. And
Yeah.
will preclude me, what I'm doing now, I've been trying to do a version of it for years, and it never got traction. And
Yeah.
I was the best version of myself at that time, but for me to come out, I need to be me. So there's a great relief in that of like, and there's something beautiful that Oliver Wendell Holmes says, and most men die with their music still locked inside them. That's because they're always waiting, they're always waiting, they're always waiting to get better or something before they know it, time runs out.
Yeah.
And our past that whole way of trying to get to something, better than we are. So, and I just seem to find this is what's working for me. And the people that I come in contact with is, I'm just finding it in life.
Yeah.
And I think it started with Julie, because when Julie came into my life, I had been trying as a spiritual guy to, I want to stop my crazy mind. I want to stop these desires. I want to stop the manipulative part of myself. And I just tried to gut my way through it. And then I made a prayer, which was, whatever stands in the way of me loving Julie Moore, may it be removed. And so these same things that I was trying to get rid of because I wanted to be a perfected version of myself so God would love me or I'd love myself, well, now, no, I don't really care about that. She loves me as I am.
Yeah.
But my lack of honesty with her, me working the edges with her, or me holding the secret back, or whatever it was I was doing, was that. And so there's a way we love our way through life, presents the opportunities for us to love our way past things, that all this self-help stuff and all these I've run it, this is the thing. I'm a fucking veteran, brother.
Yeah.
I've done it. I'm not just saying, oh, try this. I've taken, freezing cold spring baths. I've tied my dick in a knot. I've done all that stuff.
Yeah.
And in some ways it served me well. But the other thing is, no, let life and love do it.
Yeah. What do you think about a lot of the self-sabotaging behavior that you see, and why do you think a lot of people just kind of get in their own way?
Let me ask you that question first.
Well, I think a lot of people don't know the root cause of their issues. I think a lot of us are just reacting to it as it kind of shows up, because it's almost like, even for myself, it's like I notice that I'll get close to something, and when I'm right there, I'm almost like, oh snap, like I almost put more pressure on myself than I should, and I'll either back out, or I'll just kind of run right through it, or I'll just kind of stay in that gray zone and never really cross over to be black or white. I mean, it's, yeah, even for myself, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's one of those things that still kind of rears its ugly head in my life too, and that's still one thing that
It's great to see it. And so I'm trying to think how I could tell stories and maintain anonymity. So there was I had a partner in a previous iteration of this business, and we were doing a coaching session with someone, like two of us, and my then partner kept saying, you could try this in your business. And the guy said, no, 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 no. You can try this. No, no, no. He went through three of these, and finally, my partner's name was Justin. I said, Justin, hang up, get off the Zoom. And I said to the guy, you don't want success. Why the hell are we giving you all these ideas? Let's stop this and find out what the hell's going on, that you don't feel you're worthy of success, or you're afraid success is going to destroy you, or you think you're not ready for it yet, or
yeah.
I can't be better than my father, or whatever the hell the things are. And it's interesting because I just had two conversations, and I'm not, sorry, I'm trying to turn my damn phone off. It just won't shut up. That that one is that one conversation was, he said, I only work hard when I run out of money.
Pain.
So he's, you give me money and I'm just going to be a puddle of piss. Okay. And a lot of us feel that way. We
Yeah.
need to have the stress of scarcity
Yeah.
drive us. And sometimes it's just more, it's just more complicated, and it gets into much deeper, deeper stuff that I can't really share it, but enough to say that a lot of times, like someone said that my mother told me that I'd become just like my father. Well, my father was rich, and I wanted to prove my mother wrong. It's like, it's weird shit, right? But
Yeah.
it's like that. Like somewhere along the line, we equated success with a loss, with losing something that we love, losing the people that we love. And then the last thing and this is kind of old stuff that just reoccurred to me, is, and I forgot what it was. So it just happened. I had it right there, and then I just, it's just, we don't know who we'd be.
Yeah.
It's like we feel the sides. There's someone, I was listening to a podcast and they're talking about, the guy worked on a big cattle farm, and there was these thousands of acres of the cattle were penned inside, but there were thousands of acres, and all the new cows would come in. They would walk around the edge of the framework and feel the fence. They had to feel the contours of the fence.
Yeah.
So our victimization, our scarcity, our fears, our feeling unloved, all those things, that's the cow we know that. Oh, that's who okay, I feel this. I know this. I know this. I know this.
Yeah.
And like, we wonder, who would I be if I didn't have that? And that's what I'm discovering now. And the answer is, you'd be something really glorious.
Yeah.
And you'd be more of yourself. We're afraid we'll be less of ourselves if we don't have these negative thoughts and this negative stuff. And, that's how I define myself. That's how people know me as. But no, you still have all of it. I'm still the same guy.
Yeah.
I didn't transform into something new. I'm just free to be that guy in ways that I never would imagine.
In an authentic way where it's almost like you and your essential self almost come together as one.
Of course, perfectly said. Why bifurcate it? Why add more duality to it? Why? And even the fact that there's parts of you that are egoically based and aren't, that's still part of this perfect design.
Yeah.
And I think that the key is not to take, what I want to do is insulate the world or minimize the impact that my ego has on the world rather than get out of it.
Yeah, I love that. It makes perfect sense.
Sure.
That
So
means
I know that I can try to close someone just because I get, like they let me under the radar. They're part of my 4,000 years of Jewish bartering says, okay, now I get a better price on that camel,
Yeah.
That's who I am. So
Exactly.
I have to stop that voice. I want your love. Your love is more important to me than a good price on the camel.
I gotcha. That being said, we're going to take a quick little break here, guys, but we'll be right back. Well, here we are, ready for round two. So I guess what I want to start off with, it's kind of like, one thing I see is with the transformational side of everybody that talks to you and how they, you get right to the point. And I brought up for myself that I feel like I have that self-sabotaging nature. What is it that you find in people when they get close to their goals, or what's holding them back from really succeeding?
So I'll tell you a story. Let me just think of someone I talked to. I can't remember what we talked about before, and I hope I haven't told this story before. But there were a couple people. It could be one that you think that if you get success, the success will destroy you.
Gotcha.
That if you and for me, when I, if I had what I had now when I was in my 20s, my ego would have been insufferable. I would have had, I'd have a wife and 4 mistresses, and God knows what I would have done with all that. So in a way, there's a sense, real or perceived, that we don't have what it takes, that success will destroy us. I think with others, it's that we really are afraid of being seen. And this seems paradoxical because So, you could be an exhibition, like I love being seen. I love to,
Yeah.
I can't, I don't, the more people that see me, the better, but there's something in me as well because I think there's something about myself that if people see it, I'll be rejected or I'll be abandoned.
Yeah.
And I was talking to someone, a client, and when talking with her, we realized that it's like, okay, if I just have 10 people that know me and reject me, that's one thing. But if I have 1,000 people that know me and reject me, then that really goes into something.
Yeah.
And I'd say the third thing that I see is that we just feel we're not worthy of it. And we, this kind of gets to the first two, but the third one specifically is that I always felt that until I could banish the manipulative motives that I sometimes had, I didn't want to have success because I would take advantage of people. And so, look, oh no, you know what? I still, I'm married, but I still see that girl and I take a second look at her, so, oh my God, I'm not ready to be, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever foible we have, we think, oh my God, if once I get to that point, either I'll be worthy of success or I'll attract success.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of it. And I guess it comes down to, it's just like, who am I? Who It's like we're so conscious. Guys like us, and I'm sure like some of your listeners too, is we're self-reflective, we're empathic, we want to do the right thing, and we are so hyper aware of our faults that
Yeah.
and tend to magnify those faults, that we just feel that there's no way that guy's you're going to have 100,000 listeners to you instead of whatever you have, or are going to have whatever. That's a
Yeah.
long-winded answer. I don't know if I touched on some things there.
Well, no, it kind of makes sense because it's weird. Like the one thing that stuck out to me that you said was like almost you have to achieve a certain thing before it's almost like you give yourself license to progress or whatever,
Beautifully said.
right? And but why do we do that? Like, why is it? I don't know. That human nature just tells us we have to, or we're supposed to.
Well, I heard something really fascinating yesterday. It just stuck with me all day. And it's this um, gentleman, Panache Desai, who Joey and I listen to every morning. It's been really influential the last couple of years in our lives. And he said, we we mimic we mimic our mothers to get love, and we mimic our fathers to get security. So in other words, whatever the love language was between our mother, again, this is just take this as a metaphor, if not, gospel truth or true on every occasion. But like for me, example, my father was had a scarcity, depression, Jewish, you
Yeah.
know, third, second generation. And so it was like, do you really need to flush the toilet? Do you really have
Yeah.
a light on? Do you really have enough money? And so for him, that mentality of scarcity was how he felt safe. That, okay, I'm saving a nickel, that's going to make my family safe. So then that's how my dad feels security. So then I'm doing, I am basically mirroring that. And so a lot of times it's not us, it's just generational stuff that we're still stuck with long after the rationale for that is gone. And I think also I've heard this before, this is more therapeutic than kind of along the lines of the waters I prefer to swim in. But I notice a lot of people, especially men, I just say this on men, are afraid to succeed past where their fathers were. And you can take that as just an
Hmm.
isolated example rather than, oh, that's true for everyone. It's like, oh, there's a good example of, hey, I don't want to show up my dad. And so I'm getting to the close to where hopefully I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
But, so it could be so many different things that are just generational, and that they're not understandable because the source of that conviction, the source of that wound is so deep. Like I say, the punishment doesn't fit the crime.
Yeah.
If I go out and if someone I hear, someone looks at me funny, or like I had a client, I got some reading glasses on and I put the glasses on and I said, and I looked at myself in the Zoom thing. I said, gosh, they make my Jewish nose look big. And he said, yes, they do. And then all of a sudden, like I feel this whole insecurity of being this little Jewish guy with a
Yeah.
big, you know. Now that comment meant nothing. He's just the most lovable, loving guy you can imagine.
Yeah.
That hit me that way. It wasn't that little comment. It's because, oh, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. That's hitting the deep, deep.
Yeah.
And I say, and guys, again, men like us and again, I'll assume your listeners is that this isn't like you got to go into therapy. It's more like I want to be curious. I
Yeah.
curiosity about ourselves rather than beating ourselves into something or having this panic that I got to be perfect, that just digs the blocks in deeper. It's like, wow, why did that comment from my beloved client suddenly fill me with this rush of, oh my God, I've been exposed. Like I'm walking, like the dreams you have where you go into school and you're naked.
It's almost like, no, you're right. That makes a lot of sense. And I don't know, it gave me a little bit of clarity there because it is true. Like I was reading about how subconscious programming works and all that stuff, right? But it almost seems like we create these paradigms in our heads for whatever reason, and it doesn't really match up with reality. But how do you go about getting people past these like blockages or this way of thinking? Like, are there exercises or what is it that you do to address these issues, man?
Really interesting. I am not the transactional, 5 steps to this or do that. Occasionally I'll tell someone, hey, you want to quit smoking dope? Start running. That's how I
Yeah,
quit smoking cigarettes. I quit smoking cigarettes starting to run. I didn't want to pay the price for every cigarette I smoked. And this is, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. But
yeah,
anyway, no, it's one, people, they have to want, it sounds so, it's the same, true of any athlete or any person who wants it. Yeah, they have to have gotten to the point where they're more interested in the truth about themselves than they are protective of the lie that they've been telling themselves.
yeah.
So what could that be? That could be a point of pain. In my own case, it was, I said losing $1 million in a business, having my second spiritual teacher turn out to have feet of clay, and a divorce.
Yeah.
At that point, I just wanted the truth. Or even a more dramatic example is I was misdiagnosed as having a tumor that was going to be the end of me within a matter of months. And
Jeez.
when that happened, all I cared about was the truth.
Yeah.
So something can bring you don't want to go that kind of,
No,
I
yeah, but
just have a flair for the dramatic, so it's not enough. I'm such a drama queen, or we used to be, that I had to have something like that. But anyway, something first of all needs to bring you to the point, and it doesn't have to be trauma. It could just be love. As I talked about Julie, that I wanted so much to love her more, that I was really curious about these things that were these these protective mechanisms, these inauthenticities. So one, it starts with that, and I don't know. This is kind of generic, but I can't. It happens to be the truth, irrespective of whether it sounds generic. What does it take to bring us to the point where we know that just being ourselves is going to get us everything that we want?
yeah.
It's like an experiment. I would suggest maybe an experiment in authenticity, of just experimenting with being more authentic, being more available, being less pretentious, just foregoing the opportunity to impress somebody just for the sake of impressing them, and instead just trying to be interested in them for the sake of being interested. And as that starts to build momentum, then kind of the next steps will appear to you. And so I would say, one, you need to want it. And the second is to have, to kind of have that willingness to just experiment with being, what does it mean to just be more authentic, more yourself? I said this, I might have even said it with you. I can't remember, CJ, I'm sorry. I'll blame my memory. But that so many men, and myself included, want to become a certain version of themselves so that they're loved. And then they can never be secure that they're being loved for really being themselves.
Yeah.
So they have the trophy wife, or they
Yeah.
even have a woman who adores them, but deep down they feel, oh my God, they fell in love with with a successful, athletic, charismatic person that I wanted them to see.
Yeah.
And there's something so beautiful for being loved and seen for who you are. And
Yeah.
just experiment with be that and see who shows up.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's almost like you mentioned some that I think is real for a lot of guys. It's that projection that they put into the world of themselves, which
Mhm.
isn't real. When the mask falls off and people see them for who they are, it's almost like they're exposed, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, I don't really know if I like that person.
It's funny. Something that I found with Julie, because there's something we're all, I've mentored, hundreds, if not thousands of college students, because we had an organization that did that well. We had our software company during the 90s, and then we also were working at the 3 universities here in Duke, UNC, and the state. And every one of them, I would just say, okay, fill in the blank. They wouldn't want anything to have to do with me if they knew blank about me. We all have that blank. What's the blank that we have that people don't know? And again, I'm sorry if I don't think it was, I told you I mentioned this, but with Julie, I just mentioned some stuff. Did I mention this?
No, you didn't. Yeah.
Oh, no, but I there was some things I feel, hey, I trust she loves me for who I am. And I went into the closet and took out the thing that I was most ashamed of. And
Yeah.
also that thought would bother her the most because it violates so many, what I did violates them. And she looked at me and she said, and and then what? You went postal and killed 1,000 people, or
Yeah.
And it's like so often these things that seem that we think because somebody said other people have shamed us into thinking that who we are is not acceptable.
Yeah.
We have been shamed into that. And is another one of my clients, and people just really aren't paying that. They're really not that interested in you. You think they're thinking about you and judging you, but for the most part, they're just so self-consumed that they don't really, even if they knew about it, they wouldn't really care about it.
Oh man, I mean, the thing is that I feel like a lot of the human issues that we see are just kind of like, it's like the same thing, just in different ethnic groups and different people, but we're all kind of wired the same way. Can you tell us one of your favorite or a success story that you had that really stuck out to you?
In my life or working with someone, which kind of
Well,
success?
working with a client, just kind of like, what was the one
Yeah,
or like a breakthrough?
this goes right to that. It's funny you mention this. And this man has become a friend and and even a bit, we even doing some business together, starting a company together. But he came to see me, and COVID, almost everything's on Zoom. This was, I think, the first guy that we went in my backyard, and we were face to face, which was a really cool. And there was something that he said, "Hey, is everything I'm telling you confidential?" And I said, "So the dogs are here, but they're not talking, so
Yeah.
sure." And he just told me something that he was so incredibly ashamed of, and it happened 10 years ago. And 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 I was just able to, I didn't just say, "Oh no, they're there." I was able to meet him, talk through what happened, talk through who he was, put that into a different context, put that into a different perspective. And because I met him in love and acceptance, but still held him accountable, not like, "Oh, you did," but no, okay, this is what you did. Yeah. But something lifted.
Yeah.
And his wife had told me later that he was a different man. The smallest thing that got lifted, this deep thing that was him that happened 10 years ago, that there really, it wasn't that terrible. And he just imagined that the consequences for that had rippled out, and, millions of people were on welfare lines, or, died horrible, it was so stupid. But anyway, it was just in an instant to see the instantaneous liberation of another human being that spreads out into their family and into every part of their doing. That is incredibly. And then I would say another thing that I'm finding right now, it's really kind of amazing me, and I hope and people take it the right way, that I'm not claiming cause and effect. I am watching so many of the people in my life as they let go of scarcity, find abundance.
Yeah.
And by say letting go of, like, "Oh, I got to go out and hustle and get this person, and if I get the," and instead knowing their own value, literally saying, "I know what I'm worth, and I only want to work with the people I want to work with." That takes such guts when you're in our business, when and then seeing that. And I don't know and again, I'm not claiming, I'm just sharing a formula that's working with me, and then that formula is working for them. But I am seeing so many people come into deep abundance as they align more with who they are and less with the old tapes that are playing in their heads.
I mean, I love to see that. That's kind of like the beauty of what you do, I guess. And that's kind of what gives, I don't know, as far as like when you see somebody succeed and you know that you may have contributed to it,
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with taking credit, Dave.
No, no, and I don't. And I have an idea, which I'm going to just call it out because what the hell, we're talking about this. I would love you and I will sit down sometime in the next week or two for an hour,
Yeah.
and we'll pick something in yourself. Okay,
Yeah.
just go, and then we'll come back and report on the transformation. How's that? You
Hey,
game?
sounds good to me. I'm game.
All right, terrific. All right, let's do that. And then we won't be talking about other people, talking about yourself. So let me ask you something, because what is and I'll ask you this question. It's the question I'd ask your listeners to ask themselves too. Because when I'm working with people, it's like, what is the one thing that you can do that no one else can do exactly the way you do it?
I guess communicate with people, talking with people. I'm a very talkative guy.
Okay, so what is it that you have, CJ has, that nobody else has, that because CJ has this and CJ has this perspective or whatever the heck it is, what is it that you do that's so specifically yours?
The ability to connect with people.
Okay. And what gives you that? What gives you that? Where does that come from? If you can tell.
I kind of feel like, I don't know, as a kid, I was way too talkative, but then I kind of learned how to, like, I don't know, talk a little bit less and then kind of hone that skill and like just being able to meet new people and make new connections. But even at work, my job is to be the guy that goes around and basically socializes and make sure everybody's kind of good and everybody knows me. And that's kind of like my thing. I'm kind of like technically it's like my job is to be the coordinator to make sure everything's going the way it should, but my boss basically made me more like concentrate on the people versus the product. And he's like, hey, just go check on, this guy, make sure everything's good. And I don't, that's one thing that I have, I guess. I guess it's a skill, but, and over time, because I've been doing it for about 4 years now, where it's just kind of like, I know how to connect, manage, deal with people, deal with issues on the fly. Like, and I know that that's something, I guess maybe I've probably developed that skill more too over the years, just because I've had, I mean, more difficult issues come up with certain people, but still being able to deal with it in a way that, you know what, he's not offended by the way I came off. And if I got to set the guy back on course, it just, I mean, it's not like not like I'm a lawyer, taking him to court or anything, but at the same time, I can hold them accountable and keep everybody in line, but just be cool with everybody, and I think that's a skill because there's a lot of people that I see that get into positions of power or positions of authority, and it's like either they completely abuse it or they're literally socially inept of like being able to empathize with the dude in front of them. And I just watch it, I'm like, why is this guy on my team? I don't want him here. I want
Wow.
to smack him upside the head.
So I'll tell you quick. I'm going to give you the punchline at the very end, but I want to deal with something here. So my first teacher, who was incredibly difficult, I wrote a book about him, and that's why I sold my law practice to get the freedom to write this book. And in 20 years, he paid me one compliment. It's
Wow.
not every 20 years I get one. I didn't stick around for the next 20. He said, my mother's maiden name is Lieb, which means love in German. He said, you're aptly named. He said, love is both who you are and your strategy for life.
Mm.
So with you, it's interesting because you have the social skills and the talents to help move minds and get people to understand and get them to do, but you also deeply care.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful alignment. When you get both of those, because you get some people that are social idiots, deep, they're social idiots. You get other people that are terrific manipulators, but they got no heart. So part of what works for you is that you genuinely care about people, but you also know how things work. You're also And I would say one thing that I've noticed about you, and this is kind of I'm always looking for like, what's that? Why did God take the time to make this particular, talking metaphorically, you don't have to take God, whatever you want. Why did whatever you substitute what you want, the universe, fate, chance.
I like God.
Okay. God, but again, I don't want to lose anybody with this. But why would God create CJ that way instead of another way? Why would he create Dave this way?
Yeah.
Because you're a full man in every sense. You're masculine.
Yeah.
and you got at the same time, you got a deep heart. And so
Yeah.
when you can come from that point of power, because so many people, I know I had my second spiritual teacher, I don't know, paid me a compliment 20 years, I was 12. He told me that, he said, you're passionate. He said, your passion inspires me, but you're weak. And I took that weakness and I felt bad until I realized what he was really saying is my heart. I had an enormous heart.
Yeah.
So we tend to conflate or confuse heart with weakness. Or it could go around. We can take weakness and say it's a big heart, but we're actually just weak. But anyway, point is, you're both. You're strong in heart, and that gives you a platform to speak from. Hey, I can have a big heart and be no less of a man in the traditional sense of the word. And I think that's really part of what your genius is and part of what your gift is, of being able to come from that kind of platform.
Thank
And
you.
you don't
Yeah.
have to take the panache of toxic masculinity, as my stepdaughter,
Yeah.
as it's called now. And I won't use that. I don't, there's a fault in
Yeah.
that. You don't need to take that in order to project your power. And I
No,
think
yeah.
that's a great gift that you have. And everybody, I would say everyone's listening has something like that. They have some weird, witch's brew in the best possible sense of the word, alchemistic, if you like that better, mixture of qualities that let them do something that no one else can do, the way that they do it.
That's interesting, man. I'm gonna have to go and meditate on that.
I gave you the proverbial koan there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a few more minutes. What would you like? Where would you like to end up?
Well, I mean, Dave, so far it's been an honor, but any closing words that you think for just the audience listening, that I don't know, some words of inspiration, I guess, or something that they can do.
Yeah, the first thing I do, I have to say I'm not selling, but if you're interested in whatever, davegold.com is the place to find me, or dave@davegold.com. And that is, yes, my words of wisdom are this, and actually ties in what I just said. You and I have created a field where people can surprisingly look out of the corner of their eye and experience a sense of authenticity and vulnerability, and like, oh, that's cool. This is real.
Yeah.
This is real. So people are in that real space, and that's the moment you move. Okay, do something. I don't care what it is. And I'm not saying, maybe 1 out of 1,000 people I'm meant to work with. So I'm not saying, oh, everybody should get on there and send me an email. No, I don't care. Do something authentic. Do something that you wouldn't normally do because you were afraid that if you did that, people would reject you or you'd show your real self. Just do one little thing. And the last thing is that, honestly, I'm telling you, I'm going to be 70 in a couple of weeks. And as CJ, I don't look it, and I'm sure I don't sound it. And the greatest wisdom that I've accumulated from that, 45 years in business and 45 years of spirituality, and 7 years of this mad love affair I'm involved in, all the different things that I've done. I think I might have said before that being hard on yourself doesn't make you any better. It just makes your life harder. And there's a certain, especially for men, to treat ourselves with a certain amount of tenderness while we're holding ourselves accountable, and to start questioning the lies that we've been telling ourselves about why we're no damn good. That's where our liberation is, and that's when we can love others and others can love us more.
Wow. That's a mic drop moment.
And I didn't read I didn't read it.
Yeah, no, I saw that. Oh man.
Thank you so much. So look, you still have my Calendly. Set up a time, and let me send you and we'll get together. Let's do this. Let's run the experiment.
Do it again. Yeah, definitely.
You and I will hang out and a little bit and come back and see what we do. The other thing, and I'm going to put you on. Now I'll do this offline because I don't want to put you on the spot.
All right. Well, I guess I'll log over from here and then we'll talk a little bit more after.
Sounds great.
All right. Until the next episode, guys.
All right. Thanks, CJ. Thanks to everyone listening.